distribution was very just, so that nobody dared to get every day this pot of bread, which was more nourishing, you know, because people didn't eat bread, but they got, because it was per day. And they didn't eat it, they just took small pieces, put it under the tongue, and kept it until it melts away, you know.
Make it last longer.
Yeah, so that it lasts longer. That's why it was great luck to have this piece of bread.
They didn't think of gathering like wild plants, you know, from, could they, or no?
If you look at this model, we are in the middle, literally in the middle.
That one?
Yeah, that one. 25 meters to the fence, about 30 meters to the fence.
I see.
Nothing was growing in the yard.
Watchtower, yeah.
Yeah, watchtower.
So it's a prison. Okay.
Yeah, nothing was growing. No grass was growing in the yard. Jack says that if a single bird or a single cat would appear, it would have been eaten immediately.
Yeah.
They couldn't, you know, get any.
Right. They had no access.
Anything. They were escorted outside this area for water once a day, being guarded by the police. And my question to you, if you get that daily ration of bread and a plate of so-called soup from potato peels, will you survive for a year here? Will you be able to dig a tunnel under the ground? I don't believe it.
Yeah.
I don't believe it.
Yeah.
And I was searching for proofs where they got food. And then I read in many memoirs, in testimonies, that they exchanged things which they had, clothes, you know. They were making shoes. They were making shoes for local population as well.
Okay.
So people from the town could come to order a new suit, a new pair of shoes, or to repair a pair of shoes. And local people did help.
Oh,
and
that's nice.
Even the
Good.
guards, the police, they were locals. The Jews collected what they had for exchange and would give to a policeman. And at night, people from the village or from the town would come with food and exchange through the policeman.
Nice.
And the policeman would give here.
Nice. I also read Chris Browning. I guess maybe you've read his book. The thing that struck me was, I believe it was 20% of even the German police who were recruited in the Einsatzgruppen. I guess largely because, you know, among those 20% were either you know, SPD, Social Democrats, or even KPD, communist perhaps. That the rate of refusal was relatively high for this kind of genocidal imperialist situation, you know, relative to, say, even the Vietnam War, you know, where Americans did not have that tradition of, you know, working class, emancipatory, you know, whatever, politics, philosophy. But anyway, yeah.
As you understand, this was the place for, like any other place, like any other ghetto, where people lived and worked, of a closed type, of course, where at the very end everybody was to die, like everywhere else.
Nishes, etc. Yes, everywhere else. Yeah.
And nothing was special about this place until May 7, 1943. So from August 6, 1942 until May 7, 1943, they just worked and lived here. It was bad, very bad. They were in danger. They were had numbers. They were counted every day. They lived under a threat. If somebody escaped, then the whole room would be punished. For example, all the There were several escapes, but nobody was killed as a punishment,
Really?
for the escapes.
They were probably valuable as workers enough, maybe?
Maybe, I don't know, really, nobody gave any explanation for that. But then on May 7th, something happened. Or something, it's another action, another massacre.
Right.
When half of them who were not such good workers, who were regarded to be not very helpful, not very necessary, they were killed 300 meters from here. And before that, the Germans introduced a new scenario. Once a week, they began bringing extra bread for the best workers. And to receive this extra bread, best workers were to go to that white building. So on May 7th, the best workers were in the white building receiving their bread, and the rest who were parading in front of the barrack, they were escorted, marched out of the yard and killed. And those who were eating their bread or getting their bread, they saw everybody, they heard cries, it was just like they write that they got angry, so much angry because they were deceived again.
Right.
In such a brutal way, again deceived. And the reaction to this was to do something. To do something, different ideas, to throw hand grenades into the house where the guards were.
There?
Yes, the building still stands. People objected. Then somebody said, let's dig a tunnel. And this idea was accepted by everybody. And they began digging a tunnel. But, because you are interested in different political groups and movements, you know about the party Coalition.
Coalition. That was Avram Leon was part of that before he became a Trotskyist. So
in Novogrudok, every Jewish party political party was represented.
Okay, interesting.
So the leader of Coalition was in charge of the underground movement in the ghetto.
Just to clarify, they were the socialist wing of the Zionist movement, I believe. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
And he didn't believe in this idea of building a tunnel.
Really?
He didn't believe in this success.
Interesting.
And he said that he's not going to contribute to this project. And then another man who was not a member of any political party, he was a photographer from Novogrudok, Belarusian, and a member of the Maccabi team. He said, we'll do it.
Maccabi team.
Maccabi is a sports team, very common for Jewish football teams all over the world. They are called Maccabi. To honor the leaders of the uprising, Maccabeans.
Right.
In Judea.
Hanukkah. Okay. Sure.
And that's how it began, with this crazy idea. People who starved, people who had been humiliated, people who didn't have really any instruments for constructing a tunnel. They used everything they had.
Excuse me.
They used this disc for scrubbing the tunnel. This disc and other things were found 2 years ago when we were searching outside for the exit from the tunnel. Because we found the entrance into the tunnel in this barrack. Jack Kagan, whose photograph is here, the one whose place is in the first room on the upper bunk, he was 13 at that time. Yes, that's him. Idel Kagan. That's him. When they began digging the tunnel, he was lying on the upper bunk, couldn't get down, couldn't walk at all, because all his toes had been amputated by a dentist here. They got frostbitten during his unsuccessful attempt to escape, and he couldn't move. On May 7th, his mother and his sister were killed. 300 meters away from here. A month later, his father, who was a shoemaker, was sent to Koldichevo, to a concentration camp. Nobody ever returned from that camp alive. So Jack, who couldn't walk, couldn't work, didn't get 125 grams of bread, was lying on the bunk, had no chance to survive. In fact, he was sentenced to die. But when he learned that people began digging a tunnel, this gave him hope. Hope that if he manages to learn to walk, that's his chance. And this idea, you know, it was working for everybody until the tunnel was ready. Because practically everybody knew. 50 people were digging. Those who were not digging, they helped with some extra food, extra piece of bread, you know, exchange something for. They were to provide instruments. They were to solve problems. Like the tunnel was very narrow, 70 to 70 centimeters, 1 meter under the ground.
Can I step on?
Yeah, sure. It began under the bunk here in the corner of the room. This room used to serve as a stable before the war.
Okay.
The biggest room in this building. So the tunnel was very narrow, and the problem for diggers was air. They lacked air inside the tunnel. And to solve this problem, the carpenters from the workshops came to rescue. They had these long drills, drilling instruments.
Sure.
And they drilled the layer of the ground, 1 meter layer above the tunnel, so that it could make a small hole,
Right.
and the air would come inside the tunnel.
So they had to do this surreptitiously, obviously. So they did this, what, at night, or?
In the daytime, they had to work in the workshops because everybody had.
Oh, that's you.
Sorry, had a certain. When they began digging the tunnel, they tried to fulfill their norm, their task in the workshops, the best they could, so that the Germans didn't have any reason, you know, to scrutinize them here.
Right.
Because they had to do everything secretly. They had to hide the earth that was taken out of the tunnel, and they built this trolley, you know, to pull the earth. And at night, you're right, they were doing it at night, or sometimes somebody, 1-2 people would pretend to be sick, stay here in the barrack, and work in the tunnel instead of going to the workshops. And their colleagues would fulfill the task for them.
Right, the quota. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why everybody knew about it. Not 2 people. Now I know that 2 people didn't know, but that's a separate story. When the tunnel was ready, and the date for the escape was appointed, the escape didn't take place. People who lived in this room locked the door from the inside and didn't let people from other buildings. You see here on the model that there are 3 buildings in one row, one stands separately, and then 2 together. In some rooms there was communication through the doors. In fact, there were no doors. But in other rooms there was no communication, and they had to communicate through the loft.
Okay.
But that separate building, people who were not allowed out of the building after 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the evening, they couldn't come into this building and enter the tunnel. Why? Why they did it? Why didn't they let anybody in? Belarusian, who was in charge of the project, organized voting. Who was for the escape and who was against the escape. 40% were against the escape. Why? Many reasons. The tunnel that was 200 meters long, that narrow, what if
it collapsed?
If the tunnel collapsed?
Yeah, sure.
What if we suffocate in the tunnel? What if the police comes? What many ifs?
Yeah, sure.
people who knew that they would be killed here still preferred to stay here and wait, or maybe we'll be liberated earlier than they would kill us, you know.
Yeah.
There is always hope, even if it's groundless.
Yeah. What year was this again? 1943 or
43.
43?
This was 1943. There were
Okay.
practically only 2 ghettos left. In Lida, where I stayed. The last Jews from Lida were deported to Majdanek at the beginning of September.
September 1943.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And when did the Red Army roll into Belarus? What year? What month?
To this area in July 1944.
Okay. So
But
basically.
to Belarus in generally, it was November 1943. Eastern areas were liberated already in November 1943.
Okay.
So they knew about the situation on the front. They knew that the Germans were retreating. They knew it was
Really?
a slow process, but still there was hope. Maybe it would go faster, you know. And
Right. So after, I think I read Arno Meyer, and his thesis was that the final solution really kicked into gear when the fascists were unable to take Moscow, and at that point, I guess other.
that was the first defeat of the Germans.
Yeah.
Was the battle near Moscow.
Yeah.
And then was 1942 was
Stalingrad, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I think Meyer said at Moscow, which was relatively early, I guess, right?
Yeah, it was 1941, yeah.
41. So, oh, interesting. And what month in 1941 was
The
that?
end of November, December.
November, December 1941.
Yeah, so
Do you-
winter.
Okay, interesting. And then a lot of these actions, though, with the Einsatzgruppen, were they after Moscow then? That was a question I had. After the Battle of Moscow, or were they pre the Battle of Moscow?
You know, Einsatzgruppen operated here at the very beginning of the occupation. So July 1941, Einsatzgruppen worked here.
Okay.
Then regular army, Wehrmacht,
Right.
marched here eastwards.
Yep.
And Einsatzgruppen continued, but there were periods when it was quieter, and there was, for example, 1943, July, August 1943. You remember in Defiance, there is a
It's been a while.
unity operation against partisans. When Germans tried
Baranovice.
to... Yes,
Yeah.
Baranovice.
I saw that recently. The Russian government has
Yeah.
Star on YouTube, the documentary, 15 parts, and they had a whole thing for the partisans. And
You know,
yeah.
this was the biggest punitive operation during the whole occupation in Belarus. During that punitive operation, the Germans had 2 aims. One aim was to destroy partisans. They didn't succeed. Partisans knew forests, you know, swamps better than the Germans. The Germans were
Nice.
afraid
To go in,
deep into
Right.
the forest.
Yeah, nice.
The second aim was to take people to forced labor. And 20,000 and several hundred people were sent to Germany to forced labor. They were sent by force, and they went there to work voluntarily, some of them, because of the propaganda. Can you imagine that in 1942, 1 year after the occupation began, young people, Germans opened in Novogrudok schools, ordinary secondary schools, and high school for teachers. A seminarium, teachers' seminarium, to train teachers, because they needed teachers to open more schools, to work in schools. This is the time when collaboration of Belarusians begin collaborating with Germans, hoping that Germans would allow them to have a government of their own under the German umbrella.
Right. Like the Ukrainians or...
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And the Germans, they play this game because there are not so many here, Germans. They have to collaborate with locals. They tried with Poles at the beginning. Didn't work. And then Belarusians came, you know, with their desire to collaborate.
So peasants, basically, yeah?
Peasants, but not only, elite, as intellectuals as well.
I see. Okay, interesting. But now the workers, though, were they mainly Jewish, or were they Belarusian, or?
No Jewish. Jews were in the ghetto.
Right. I mean, historically, though, like, say up to maybe up to the eve of the invasion, I'm just curious, the class structure, right, say of Novogrudok, or the region, Jews were in the urban centers, I guess, that much I know, so tradesmen, merchants, etc. So anyway, so my question is, I guess, was there a Belarusian peasant, or whatever, Belarusian native working class?
Peasants background, but with education.
Okay.
Those who managed to go to high school and maybe to a university.
I see. So they were petty bourgeois, I guess, as we Marxists would say. Was there a distinct layer, though, of Belarusian peasant workers, or were they just mostly peasants and then intelligentsia?
No. Peasants were the majority here.
Right.
And among peasants, you could distinguish between very poor, middle, and rich peasants.
Kulaks, yeah.
Kulaks,
yeah.
Exactly. And because Poles allowed Belarusian schools in 1924, Belarusian high school was opened in Novogrudok, private, not state one, private, but permitted by the Polish government.
1924.
Belarusians could send their children, to study, and that's why you cannot call it already intelligentsia, but still they were not peasants already.
Or intelligentsia or something. Yeah.
They were in between.
Huh, interesting.
And those were with national identity already. With a feeling of national identity.
Okay, those were the guys the Bolsheviks generally didn't like.
The Bolsheviks didn't like them. Poles didn't like them. But it was them who were used by the Germans.
Right.
Yeah.
Petty bourgeois, in between.
Yes, because they were educated people, more or less educated people already. And
but not socialized.
They were communists.
Right.
They didn't want communism here, and they didn't want Poland.
The intellectuals, sorry to interrupt, but the ones who did get the education, can you say what layers of the peasantry they came from? Were they rich, middle, poor? Was it a mix?
Mainly middle.
Middle?
Not
Interesting.
Very poor. Mainly middle.
Okay.
But
Interesting.
not always peasants. It could be town people as well. It could be, even during the Russian time until 1917, when it was Russia here, some Belarusians served in the Russian army as officers, for example. Some of them emigrated during World War I to St. Petersburg, to other big places in Russia. And then, when it became bad in Russia, they came back here. People come home because they know in the village it is much easier to survive.
Sure.
So these people who knew already the world, who served in some of them served in the Polish army, Belarusians, before 1939. So they were not ordinary peasants, definitely not.
I see, yeah.
Definitely.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
So that's how it all, worked here.
Sorry, let me